In today's video, I will be ranking every card in the game for Season 11.
Hey, let's fly to the top. Nobody can push us down.
What is up, Vulkan Army? A lot has changed since my last tier list. Last balance change, 11 cards were changed, with a lot of nerfs. So this tier list is actually going to have quite a few changes since my last one. There hasn't been a ton of time to test out the meta, but I made sure to do my research for you guys, and this is what I came up with. So starting off right away, we gotta... Man, the only person using this deck is like Joanne d'Arc. Still, it's... You can throw it in a deck or two, but it's pretty weak. And the Heal Spirit is actually going to make a jump up from the A tier to the S tier for me. And that's just because I checked the win percentage for these cards. And it's like one of the top 10 win percentage cards. In Grand Challenges, it's the 10th highest win rate card with 54% win rate. So it's doing pretty good. You know, it's not broken, but it's doing pretty good. And then the Skeletons and the Ice Spirit they're still good. They're still versatile, fit into a lot of decks. But, and they're probably actually more versatile than the Heal Spirit. Heal Spirit is one of those cards where it's like kind of a polarizing card. It can get no value or it can get a ton of value, and so that's why I don't think it needs a nerf. I kind of like where it's at. Only fits in a couple decks. But then yeah, you got the Skeletons and the Ice Spirit, which are less polarizing but more versatile. Then coming up next in the average here is going to be pretty much all the small spells, because well, the two Elixir small spells. I mean, none of them are really better than the other. Like, they're all situational. In the past, they've done a lot of balancing. They had to balance the Snowball a lot. They had to balance the Barbarian a lot. But now they're honestly all pretty well balanced. But they're still good. Like, in general, small spells are better than the more expensive spells. But that's okay. Like, and it's really just because they're more versatile and quicker to cycle. Like, I don't think they really need a change. And then Bats is going to go in the S tier, again, same as last meta. I don't think it's broken, but it's definitely like one of this, well, it's probably the strongest bait card in the game. Like, it's always in the top decks. There's constantly people finishing top 10 global with Bats, and it's just an overall good card. Fire Spirits are weak. I think they're actually going to get a buff next balance change, because I heard a rumor that they nerfed Furnace with the thought or intentions of buffing Fire Spirits. So don't be surprised if the Fire Spirits get a buff. And next up we have the Spear Golems, which I think I moved up from the B tier to the A tier. And the reason why is just because with the Magic Archer nerf, you're seeing a lot of Spear Golems decks. There's like a Spear Goblin Hog deck, there's Spear Goblin Wall Breaker, Spear Goblin with the Skeleton Barrel. So overall Spear Golems are doing pretty good in the meta. Rage is going to go into the weak tier for me. I mean, you see it in one Sparky deck, but it's not using anything else, and it's kind of more of just like a cycle card in that Sparky deck. And in general, I would say Earthquake is probably even better in the Sparky deck, but it works, and it's kind of an easy to use card. So you see some people use it just to, just so they don't have to think about things as much. And we got Goblins. These are actually doing pretty well in the meta. I mean, they're popular in the Hog Executioner deck. They're really good versus Graveyard. There's a couple like Balloon decks running it. And I think they deserve to be in A tier. They also have a super good win rate. They have a 55% win rate, so that's kind of why I'm sticking them in the A tier, in Grand Challenges at least. And yeah, they're just doing good in the meta. So we got the Ice Golem. Nothing's changing there, just overall still a pretty good versatile card. With the Ice Wizard moving down from S tier to A tier for me, right? Yes, and I mean, the Ice Wizard... Well, the Tornado got a nerf last season, which is why it's going down, because nobody's using Ice Wizard without Tornado. And speaking of Tornado, we'll just stick it there. And I think it's definitely still viable. Like, I made a video talking about Tornado. It's still good, but it's just like a tiny bit worse, Just not quite as strong. Then we got the Bandit still going into the S tier for me. And the Bandit, I think, is one of the most underrated cards in the game. Like, it consistently is always having above 50% win rate. And I just really like the Bandit. Like, it's one of my favorite cards. Some people wouldn't agree with me on this, but I'm just a big fan of the Bandit. And I think it's not like oppressive or anything, but it's just a good card that fits into a lot of decks. And it's what makes Pekka Bridge Spam good, for example. And next we're gonna have the Knight going into the A tier. 2 metas ago or something like that. Wait, did they? No, they probably buffed the Knight quite some time ago. But the Knight's doing good. The Knight's in a good spot. Pretty versatile, and it's like just as good as Ice Golem, but different situations, well balanced. The Miner is going into the A tier for me also. Ever since the nerf went down from S to A, small nerf, so it goes down 1 tier. That's kind of my thought process. Minions are, man, especially since Baby Dragon got nerfed. I just also really like minions. They're kind of like the Bandit. I think minions are just underrated and underutilized. Like a lot of times when I make my own decks, I just throw minions in there for fun. Just because I really like the minions. Like, it's a really good card, especially in decks like Lava Hounds. They're really good. Like, you can spend a lot of elixir in the back, and then they can defend for really cheap and counter push. They're good versus balloon decks. And I would never like to see a change to minions. Like, I like minions, but I think they're just a good card. We're gonna throw arrows up in the A tier also. I mean, arrows kill archers, you know, they're good, but they're not gonna do much versus like tanks or I don't know, like a Hog Rider. Like, so they're good at what they're good at. Wall breakers are going into the A tier, and almost like, so it's interesting because this is actually a 2 elixir card. I have it written down as a 3 elixir card. Last like season, you actually originally at the start everyone thought Skeleton Barrel was better, so we'll put Skeleton Barrel up here also. But there actually seem to be more wall breaker players than Skeleton Barrel in general. But then Igor finished second with Skeleton Barrel instead of wall breakers. But I think that he used like wall breakers to push up, and then like his last like 10 or so games with Skeleton Barrel. So these are definitely 2 interchangeable cards, and they're on a very similar power level. I think that the wall breakers actually might be a tiny bit better, but like not too much better. So then Eagle, I think I'm going to stick this in the B tier. Yeah, they nerfed healer, so I never thought Eagle was like really A tier level anyway, but I just thought healer kind of made it A tier. And now I think since with the healer nerf, it's a little bit worse, but you can still run Eagle if you like Eagle, if you like running no skill decks. It doesn't combo as well with Tornado anymore, but it still works. It still works. So Firecracker, I think I'm also moving up to A tier from B tier, and I mean mainly just because like originally Firecracker wasn't that popular because Magic Archer was just better, but now Magic Archer and Firecracker are kind of like on a similar level, and they buffed Magic Archer, but it's not S tier anymore, so I'm just gonna throw Magic Archer up there. It's good, but I think the HP nerf was definitely the right call. I'm actually gonna stick Earthquake. I'm moving up from A tier to S tier. And the reason why is I actually think it was S tier last meta, and I think that they accidentally buffed Earthquake this meta. Like, you're seeing a lot of Earthquake. They definitely didn't nerf it. Like, it's not any worse than last season. They gave it more like damage, but less building damage. But like, it still does enough building damage and still works versus Expo. So overall, Earthquake, yeah, it's probably actually better than last season. We're gonna put Bomber in, let's see, in the B tier. It's good, but it only fits into a couple of decks. That's really the thing about Bomber. If it hit air, it would be broken. Oh my gosh, that thing would be broken. Because it only hits ground, it's good in a couple of decks. Gonna stick the Mega Minion above average. I mean, especially with the Baby Dragon nerf, it's actually probably better now than last season. But it's not, again, it's not oppressive, but like there's nothing else that could interchange out for a Mega Minion. Like, the only other thing that's even similar is minions, and they just have different roles. The Goblin Gang is another card kind of in the same place with like the Spirit Goblins and the Goblins. It's just a pretty good card. But Bait's not in the best spot. Like, it's not bad. It's pretty well balanced. But there's been better days for Bait. It's worse than it used to be, but it's still viable. But this is also like Goblin Gang is probably one of the best Bait cards in the game. Princess is gonna go in the below average. I mean, yeah, not below average. She's gonna go in the average tier. I actually changed it. I added an average tier due to people requesting in the comments that there was no average tier. And I mean, it kind of makes sense. So that was a good request for them to ask of me. And yeah, Princess is going in the average tier. Really not too much to say about it. I guess I'll also stick Dark Golem there. They're good, but they're not on the same level as like Spirit Goblins and Goblin Gang. They're just a little bit less versatile, I think. Firecracker is less versatile, but is more polarizing. Like, if someone doesn't have an answer to Firecracker mana, it can just get infinite value. Whereas I would say Princess and Dark Goblin are a little bit easier to answer. So the Royal Ghost is going to go in the average tier. It's just like, it's kind of like a worse Bandit, but it also like you stick it in the same deck as Bandit, and overall it's a pretty good card. But yeah, it's not as good as some of the A tier cards. It's not like Royal Ghost is not the card that makes Pekka Bridge Spam good. Tombstone is going to go into the average tier. It's like Bomb Tower and the Goblin Cake now are just better than Tombstone. So that's why it's going to go in a little bit lower of a tier than Tombstone. And the guards, I think, are going in the B tier. I mean, guards are really good, but it's kind of just like since Goblin Gang hits air, it's a little bit more versatile than the guards. But if you have a deck that really needs an answer to like Prince or Mini Pekka or Pekka, guards are definitely your answer, and you can throw them in that deck. We're gonna have the clone going into below average tier. It's good, but only fits into like one deck in the game or maybe two decks in the game, and nobody's really using clone right now. So it's just really not at the forefront in the meta. Archers are gonna go in the B tier. Very good card, but it really only fits into Expo and like maybe a couple of Graveyard and Balloon decks. So it's just not as versatile as some of the A tier cards. The Skeleton Army it's kind of weak. Like the thing is, if you struggle with Skeleton Army, just put a Zap in your deck. It's literally that simple. Zap, and then also Poison is really weak to Poison. Probably, honestly, I think Poison is a real thing that kind of keeps Skeleton Army out of the meta because it just one-shots those skeletons, and also NATO now one-shot skeletons. So it's good, especially in like the lower arenas. But at the top competitive play, you're not going to see too many people using Skeleton Army. You will see a couple, but not too many. I'm going to put Cannon back in the average tier. And I think it's like, the only thing that's really holding it here is 2.6. Like, you could almost argue that, nah, let's be real. I don't know, it's so tough. Like, it's almost, is it a below average or an average card? I'm like, I had it done as average, but now I'm almost thinking it's below average. It's only in 2.6, but then I have to have the argument that Tombstone is below average, which is actually also pretty true. Like, let's be real here. You know what, I'm going to stick both Tombstone and Cannon in below average. Like, both of them because you could use a little bit of a buff. I would not complain if either of them got a tiny buff. Okay, so we're going to stick Goblin Barrel in the average tier. I think this is pretty accurate. Like, there's quite a few bait decks in the meta. Lock bait as a whole, like, is not doing that bad. I don't know if anyone technically finished higher with it last season, but like, I know KK like pushed to #1, and I think he tilted a little bit, but he probably would have finished top 20 global if he would have just stayed where he's at. So like, lock bait's not doing that bad. Fisherman, on the other hand, it's rough. It could use a quicker hook speed. If it gives a quicker hook speed, it's gonna be good again. And I don't know if it'd be broken. It's really hard to say. I never really liked Fisherman, to be honest with you guys. I'm not really a Fisherman fan. But I know a lot of people like Fisherman, and a lot of people would like to see it change. So the Royal Delivery is actually probably the best card in the game right now. Definitely the biggest winner of the last balance change. And I personally haven't used it yet because it's not quite max. But I've been seeing a lot of pros on Twitter talking about Royal Delivery, and everybody seems to think it's good, like pretty much unanimously. So Freeze is going to go in the weak tier. I like where Freeze is at. It still fits into like a couple decks, but it's definitely on the weak side. You don't want to see like a meta Freeze. Like, so it's definitely fine where it's at for me. The Tesla is going to go into the A tier. One of the best buildings, but it's not going to be as good as, let's see, where is it? It's not going to be as good as the Bomb Tower, which is going into the S tier. Definitely the best building in the game. Most versatile. Like, it even works versus air decks because of the death damage. That's in Horse versus Balloon. Like, that's what makes Bomb Tower so good. To be honest with you guys, I would like to see a slight, like maybe HP nerf to Bomb Tower, but I don't want to see like a slight HP nerf, like a 5% nerf or like even a 3% nerf. Just enough. There's a couple interactions where if it had a slight nerf, it would just be more logical. Like, for example, a balloon zap. If a balloon hits it and you zap, it doesn't instantly kill it. I would like to see it where it would instantly kill it. It does if it was on the field for a little bit of time and it lost a little bit of health like over time. But yeah, I would like to see a slight nerf in HP. And then we're gonna have the Poison going into the A tier. And I mean, it's a good spell. We'll just throw it in there with a fireball. They have different roles, but they're very good. Valkyrie again is also going to go into probably the A tier for me. Let me just double check that. Yes, it does. It's like similar card to Knight, but does splash damage. I mean, they got the Knight and the Valkyrie pretty well balanced, I would say, at this point. What do you even call these? The Zappies. The Zappies could use a little bit of a buff. I would definitely put this on my 2 buff list. I would like to see Zappies buffed, but not like too much. They're a little bit, yeah, they could use a buff. Anyways, we'll go on to the Musketeer and the Elixir Wizard are both really good. I don't really want to see a change to either of these cards. I really like them. I think they're just fun cards to use. I think they make for a healthy meta. Like, nobody's really going to cry about a Musketeer. Like, you can pretty easily kill it. But just because spells the only spells that really get value on them are poison. They're good. They're definitely strong. So I'm moving up the mortar from, I think I put it in the B tier last meta to the A tier. They finally nerfed the Goblin Hut, so you can use mortar again. Goblin Hut doesn't just like get infinite value versus a mortar. It's a very good card, but I like where mortar's at. I don't want to see a mortar change. And then they buffed the Goblin Cage. I don't even remember what I had it in, but now it's definitely in the A tier. I don't think it's as good as Bomb Tower, but oh, actually, dang, Goblin Cage is a 57% win rate. The thing is, I haven't used a new Goblin Cage, so it's really hard to say. I'm just going to throw it in the S tier just because of the fact that it has a 57% win rate in Grand Challenges, but because I haven't used too much of the Goblin Cage this meta, it's hard to say how good it is. I definitely think the Bomb Tower is probably still more versatile. I guess we'll have to see at the end of the season who's using it. We're going to stick the Battle Ram in... Let's see, it's going in definitely in the average tier, and it's a good card. I like the Battle Ram, but it only fits into like a couple decks, but I think that's the way it should be. Like, you don't want to see Battle Ram in like Lava Hound or something, for example. I think it's pretty well balanced. The Baby Dragon is going to go into the A tier for me, and it's down from the S tier because they gave it like a 10% HP nerf or something crazy. Maybe it was 5%, I don't really know, but it was a big deal. But it still works because there's no other card that can fulfill the card or the role that the Baby Dragon takes in the game. The Mini Pekka is also going down from the S tier to the A tier. It's still good. It's actually still better than Lumberjack. We'll just take Lumberjack in the average tier while we're at it. It's got the range nerf, but it's like not that big of a deal because it still pretty much has most of the same interactions. I think it can still fully counter a Hog Rider. To be honest, I haven't really played it, so I'm not too sure, but it has a higher win rate than Lumberjack, and overall, it's not doing bad in the meta despite the nerf. I think it's still above... No, it's actually at a 47% win right now, but yeah, it's doing fine. The Flying Machine is going to go in the average tier. Flying Machine is doing pretty good. We'll just throw in the Dark Prince while we're at it. Both of these cards, you don't really see them that much in mini decks because the Mega Minion and the Royal Ghost are probably just a little bit better. But it's like, if you just want that extra splash damage, then you can throw in the Dark Prince, you can throw in the Flying Machine, and they're going to do a good job. Like, for example, in Pekka Bridge Spam, also the Dark Prince is easier to level up, so it's like, it's okay to throw it in Pekka Bridge Spam if you don't have like a Max Royal Ghost or something. And overall, I don't know if I really want to see a buff to this though. I think Dark Prince is fine also because it's like, for example, better in Giant than Royal Ghost is, and then Royal Ghost is better in Bridge Spam. So I think that they did a pretty good job with those cards. We're going to stick the Night Witch in the average tier. I mean, the only deck it's really used in is Golem, but it's good in Golem, and I think that's the way it should be, so I like where the Night Witch is at. We're going to actually move up the Hog Rider from the B tier to the A tier because they nerfed Tornado, and I think Hog Rider is actually better than last season. I think even though I think it's better versus Tornado, sure, you can technically pull it to the King Tower without a hit on the tower, but if you have anything supporting your Hog Rider, like the Tornado is just going to get less value. It's not going to pull as well. I mean, it just doesn't pull as long. So I think it's overall, Hog Rider was a big winner last season, but it's not a huge winner, just like maybe a small winner, one tier winner. The Hunter is going to go from the... Actually, no, it's staying in the average tier. Only fits into a couple decks, but it's quite strong. The Healer is going to go down from the S tier all the way to the A tier. I really struggled with this. I was wondering if I should stick it in the B tier. I was like, well, Lumberjack's in the B tier, so maybe Healer should go in the B tier. But I think it's still good. Still has a decent win rate. Still fits in Elixir Golem, and I think it deserves to be a tier above Elixir Golem is what I was thinking, because it fits in more decks than Elixir Golem does. So... I mean, obviously, Elixir Golem can only go with Elixir Golem, but I think you guys know what I mean. Like, it also fits in a Ram Rider deck, and it's pretty good. So I like the Healer right now. I think it's in a decent spot on the meta. The Infernal Dragon, it's kind of like similar to the Hunter. It has really similar roles, and it's also on a similar power level. It just kind of defends. Like, Infernal Dragon is going to be better in Lava Hound decks, and then Hunter's going to be better in ground decks. So I think they're actually pretty well balanced, to be honest with you. I wouldn't want to see a buff to Hunter because I think it's good. It's probably better than Infernal Dragon. Honestly, I don't know if I want to see a buff to Infernal Dragon either, because like the decks that it fits into, I think it just makes sense. So the furnace is gonna go. I don't even know what I had this in. I had like an A tier probably. But they gave it a huge nerf, and I don't think it needed a nerf. Like, but just because they're probably gonna buff fire spirits, it's probably gonna go back up to maybe the A tier, the B tier, or even the C tier. But we'll see what happens. For now, it's gonna go in the D tier. It's definitely the worst of the spawners. Ram Rider's just an average card. Do I say anything else about it? I mean, it's an average card. A couple people hate the Ram Rider, but I really have no problem with it. Pretty easy to counter. Just put an Electro Wizard in your deck. Super easy counter. Royal Hogs is going to go into the A tier. They buffed it a while ago, and especially Royal Hogs Earthquake, Royal Hogs Royal Delivery. It's just a really solid combo. But it's like, Royal Hogs are not what makes it good. What makes it good is going to be the Royal Delivery and the Earthquake. But they're still a good standalone win condition either way. The Wizard is going to go in the D tier. You see it in low arenas, but you see no one using it in like top 200, maybe like one person. So overall, it's not that good of a card, but it's really good if versus people who aren't as good at the game, or if you have like overleveled Wizard, obviously it's going to be powerful because it's overleveled. An overleveled Wizard is more oppressive than like an overleveled Musketeer, but Musketeer at the same level is going to be better than Wizard. The Graveyard is going to go in the A tier for me. A lot of people complain, they're like, Graveyard's broken, but especially because last season they changed, like they nerfed the Goblin Hut, they nerfed the Barbarian Hut. I don't think Graveyard deserves to be in the S tier, and I don't think it did last season either. I think the thing that made it so strong was the Goblin Hut. And speaking of Goblin Hut, we're just going to jump ahead a little bit and throw this in the below average tier because a couple people are still high on ladder with it. There's actually 2 people like top 20 on the leaderboard with it right now, with like Graveyard, with Royal Hogs. And overall, it's definitely, I like where it's at. But, well, yeah, I don't know. We're going to have to see how the Goblin Hut plays out. It actually might be not as bad as people think. Like, the Goblin Hut seems to be good right now. The only thing is, everybody knows how to counter it because they're all practicing against the last meta. So that's going to make it kind of weak. But maybe as people forget how to counter it, it'll pop into the meta like more, and it'll be in a couple off meta decks. So the Bowler is going to go into the below average tier, and you know what? Just gonna change that because that was meant to be like that earlier. Anyway, the Bowler is gonna go in the below average tier because I would like to see a tiny Bowler buff, maybe even a rework. I wouldn't mind seeing a rework to Bowler. Just nobody's really using Bowler right now because it only knocks back like Battle Ram and like Bandits good versus Bowler, Dark Prince is good versus it. It doesn't knock back Mini Pekka, but like it's kind of like a little bit too expensive. I would like to see a 4 Elixir Bowler, to be honest with you guys. I think that would be pretty interesting in the game. Then we're gonna put Rascals at A tier. I mean, they're good. I've noticed when I was playing Rascals, like they're not as good as they used to be. There's definitely a noticeable difference. Like when I'm playing Mortar Bait, the Valkyrie Mortar Bait decks just seem better than the Rascal Mortar Bait decks. I'm not even too sure why, but like, well, even versus like Mega Knight, for example, Rascals just don't do that well versus Mega Knight anymore. It just kind of destroys them. So, do I want to see about the Rascals? Not necessarily. I think Rascals are good, but no, they're definitely not anywhere close to S tier. They're like lower A tier. But yeah, obviously they're so good. I mean, they're up there, so don't change Rascals. The Electral Dragon is going to go in the B tier. And again, Elixir Golem and Healer combinations are really keeping Electro Dragon in the game. And it actually combos pretty well with Heal Spirit. Feel free to try out Heal Spirit Electro Dragon decks. They're pretty good because Electro Dragon really struggled versus spells, even versus Fireball. Fireball was pretty good versus it because they can like knock it into your opponent, or your opponent can use a Fireball to knock it into their offense and like kill it pretty easily. But then if you have Heal Spirit, it'll just heal it back up and get a lot of value. Okay, we're going to stick Infernal Tower here in the B tier. How do I explain this? I mean, it's just kind of a worse Tesla. I think it's... But you see a couple people use Infernal Tower. It could honestly maybe take a little buff. I actually like Infernal Tower. I didn't mind Infernal Tower. I don't think I minded Infernal Tower being popular in the game. I don't know. Maybe don't like add HP. Maybe have it like heat up faster or something like that. That would be interesting. Tiny buff to Infernal Tower. Just make like heat up like 1% faster or something, like not too much, just like a slight buff. I would be happy with that. Cannon Cart is pretty good. It's going to go into the A tier. You can make an argument that it could be in the B tier, but I mean, Cannon Cart's like better. I don't even know what I just said. But I mean, Cannon Cart's just better than the Lumberjack. It's like better than Dark Prince. So I like where Cannon Cart's at in the A tiers. It's doing good in the game. The Balloon, even though some people might be like Tornado Nerf, Balloon goes into the S tier. But I think I'm still sticking it in the A tier because you still got the Snowball decks. Like, you still got plenty. You still got the Mini Horde decks. You still got plenty of answers to Balloon. So I don't think Balloon is gonna be broken in the meta. But I also wouldn't be surprised if someone like finished #1 global with a Balloon deck. Like, it's pretty good. It's upper A tier, but I don't know if it quite makes it into S tier for me yet. Because S tier would imply that the Balloon needs to be changed, but I think the Balloon's good where it's at. Or not even needs to be changed. I think it's like it could be changed and it still want to die in the game. So Barbarians are gonna go into the average tier. They're a really polarizing card if your opponent doesn't have like Fireball or like splash damage heavy troops. And actually, because of the Baby Dragon nerf, I think that you're going to see Barbarians might come into the meta a bit more. Like right now, they have 51% win rate in Grand Challenges. So they're pretty good, but also 51% win rate means they're pretty average. Well, I guess nothing in the game right now has a 60% win rate in Grand Challenges. So yeah, take it how you will. The Mini Horde's going to go into the below average tier for me. Just because of the arrows. Arrows are really strong versus Mini Horde. Without arrows, Mini Horde is like gonna be like B or A tier. But with arrows, nah, they gotta be below average. Executioner, I think I stick this in below average, right? Right. Executioner, you only see it in one deck. You see it in the Viper deck. And again, to all the Viper warriors who are gonna say, well, Viper makes it work in his Hog Executioner deck. Of course he does, but the thing that makes that deck strong is not the Executioner. It's every card in the deck but the Executioner, and the Executioner kind of just balances the deck out. And you only see it in that deck, which is why for me it's in the below average. But of course, if you're talking about specifically the Viper tech, then that's going to be an A tier card. But any other deck, nah, it's below average. So the Giant is going to go into the B tier for me. It's not that hard to counter a Giant deck. It really isn't. What makes Giant good is the support cards to go with it. Giant is as good in the meta as the support cards that go with Giant. Yeah, I think it fits well in the B tier. Witch is pretty bad. Like, it's pretty terrible. Nobody's really using Witch in the top 200. Nobody's really using Elite Barbarians in the top 200. Like, literally nobody. Those are like the only two cards you're literally never going to see. And then you got the Prince is going in the B tier for me. Kind of on a similar level with the Dark Prince. It's good. It fits into like, really, it only fits into Giant that I can think of. But I think that makes sense because it really only should fit into Giant. Like, so it's pretty well balanced. We got the Elixir Pump going in, let's see, probably the D tier. Oh, and again, for some reason when I reloaded the page, it messed that up. Okay, it's going into the D tier. And that's just going to be because it's not really that popular, but you still see a couple people using it. There's actually an argument that the Fire Spirits and the Fishermen could go down to the literally trash tier, but I think they're a little bit better than these cards, which is why we're going to put them in the weak tier. Also, the Zappies can almost go down to literally trash. Maybe even the Furnace. Maybe. Anyway, we're going to have the Goblin Giant next. It's like, has a different role than Giant, but kind of on a similar power level. And mainly just that it fits into Giant decks that don't have good answers to Swarm. Like, especially Sparky. Sparky struggles versus Swarm, which makes Goblin Giant pair pretty well with it. We got the Expo going into the A tier. Man, it's almost going to go in the S tier. Like, I think Expo it might need a slight nerf. Like really, it might. Like a slight HP nerf. Not much, just like a small HP nerf. Whoops. And I would be happy with that. Especially because of the Earthquake nerf. We're going to put Royal Giant back into the A tier. Right now it has a 55% win rate in Grand Challenges. And I think it actually combos pretty well with the Royal Recruit deck. Or Royal Delivery. And it combos well with the Earthquake. Which is why you're seeing a lot of people using Royal Giant right now. But they're really only using it in one deck. So it doesn't deserve the S tier. But it's doing well in the meta. And Royal Giant it's like Giant. It's only as good as the support cards that support it. And so it's a pretty well balanced card. We got the Lightning going into the B tier. Man, who's using Lightning right now? The win rate's 48%. Like, Only Golem players, right? Yeah, I'm only seeing Golem players using lightning that I can think of. Like, not even real giants using it right now. It seems to be a little bit less versatile than the fireball and the poison, and there's just not really too much of a reason to use it in the meta right now. You got the Sparky going into B tier. What do I say about Sparky? Sparky is Sparky, and you can rocket it or Electro Wizard it, and it dies, but it's still good. Rocket's going in the B tier. Again, it's kind of on a similar level with Lightning. You don't really need Rocket in the meta, and it's also pretty bad versus Expo. Like, Rocket doesn't really help you versus Expo because you still have to tank it, or it's going to get like a ton of damage from your tower. So yeah, Rocket. I would almost dare to say you could buff Rocket like a tiny bit, but maybe not, because then maybe you come into a spell cycle meta. But I would like to see it like actually counter an Expo. Giant Skeleton is a card that doesn't fit into too many decks, but it does decent in a couple decks. But it also, like, high skill players are able to, or I guess good players are able to outplay Giant Skeleton decks pretty easily. You can just play a troop behind it or something, but it's like, it's not a bad card. Like, all these cards in the C tier are usable. They're not bad. Wait, why is the cannon there? I feel like Cannon and Tombstone deserve like a tier of their own. Like, they deserve to be in between B and C tier, like, honestly. I'll just leave them where they're at. I mean, if you guys watch the video, then you're going to hear me talking about it anyway. So I guess I don't need to overthink it. I'm going to put Lava Hound into the A tier. I had a B tier last season, but I think Lava Hound's doing pretty good in this meta. Like, I made a video about it. I think because of the Tornado nerf, it actually kind of helps Lava Hound a little bit. Helps Lava Loon, especially because, you know, Loon was a big winner. And it was already close to A tier. I think it was like in between A tier and B tier. So I'm just going to stick in an A tier because there's not too much of a difference. It's a low A tier card, but a high B tier card. Pekka, nothing can replace Pekka and Mega Knight. Both of them are really good. A lot of people don't like Mega Knight. Like, let's be real here. A lot of people hate Mega Knight. But it's definitely, you can Ice Golem kite it, you can mini Pekka it, you can healer it. There's answers to Mega Knight. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be changed, but some people think that it's annoying. They nerfed the Barbarian Hut last season, obviously, and we're gonna stick it in the below average tier. But you can still use Barbarian Hut. The only spawner that isn't really viable, well, even the Furnace is still viable. It's just not really good. But I think that Barbarian Hut and Goblin Hut are a step above the Furnace right now. You know what? I'm just gonna change the cannon and the Tombstone. I don't know if I can mentally deal with them being in the C tier, because, like, they're better than the Barbarian Hut and they're better than the Goblin Hut. So how can you have them there? I don't know. It's just like, in my head, it hurts my head to put them there. Okay, so we're gonna have the Royal Recruits in the D tier. Not too popular of a card. Golem is gonna go in the A tier. Pretty solid win condition, not broken. And even with the Tornado nerf, it didn't really change Golem too much. It didn't really make it worse. Now, 3 Musketeers, I'm actually moving up from the C tier to the B tier because you're seeing a lot of people using them. The Tornado nerf helped 3 Musketeers. And even though there's nobody really in Grand Challenges or like top leaderboard, I guess kind of showcasing the 3 Musketeers right now, like, they have a 49% win rate in Grand Challenges. So they're doing pretty good in the meta. So I think their 49% win rate deserves an average placement on my tier list. And then the heal is not even in the game anymore. I have no idea why it's still on this tier list. Let me know what you guys think of my tier list in the comments below. Make sure to comment, subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out a lot. Use my creator code, whichever side it's on. Actually, it's probably down there. And Vulkan out.